So here's the first thing. Admit that your life is a mess. And second, and this one's a bit tougher, okay? You ready? Here it is. You don't want to get out of it. You do not want to get out of the mess. Talk to any psychologist who's worth his name and he'll confirm that. The last thing a client wants is a cure. He doesn't want to get cured. He wants relief. Eric Bernay, one of the great psychiatrists here in the United States, put it very graphically. He suggested you imagine a client who's up to his nose in a cesspool. He calls it liquid excrement. And he's coming to the doctor. And you know what he says to the doctor? Could you help me so that people don't make waves? The client does not want to get out of the cesspool. Oh, no. Get out. For heaven's sake, no. Just help me so they won't make waves. That's what he wants. He doesn't want to get out. You want to test that on yourself? I'll give you a couple minutes. You could do it right now. Okay, here goes. Suppose you could be blissfully happy, but you're not going to get that college degree. Are you ready to barter your degree for happiness? You're not going to get that girlfriend of yours or that boyfriend. Are you ready to barter them for happiness? How about this? You're not going to be a success. You're going to fail. Everyone is going to call you a bum. But you'll be happy. You'll be blissfully happy. Are you ready to barter the good opinion of other people for that? I'll give you time to think about it later. When I was in Syracuse last summer, I saw something in the newspaper. It was an advertisement showing a girl holding on to a boy, and she says, I don't want to be happy. The only happy people I know are in a lunatic asylum. I want to be miserable with you. See what I mean? I don't want to be happy. I want to be miserable with you. She'll develop a theology about the damn thing after a while. People don't want to get out of it. They don't want it. I don't want happiness. I want fame. And I don't want happiness. I want to get that gold medal at the Olympics. Suppose I tell you, look, give up the gold medal. You'll be happy, damn it. What do you want that gold for anyway? Why do you want to be at the top, the boss of the corporation? I'll make you happy. On $10,000 a year, I'll make you happy. It's from the 80s, so you probably have to adjust for inflation. It's probably like $36K now. Return the text. No. Give me my money. See what I mean now? Now you're catching on. People don't want to be happy. I'll tell you what it means to live like a king. To know no anxiety at all. To have no inner conflict at all. No tensions. No pressures. No upset. No heartache. So then, what are you left with? Happiness. Undiluted. People sometimes say, what do I do to be happy? You don't do anything to be happy, silly. It shows how bad your education has been if you think you've got to do something to be happy. You don't have to do anything. You can't acquire happiness. You know why? Because you have it. You've got it right now. but the whole time you're blocking it with your stupidity. You're blocking it. Stop blocking it, and you'll have it. If I could show you how to get rid of your conflicts, your anxieties, your tensions, your pressures, your emptiness, your loneliness, your despair, your depression, your heartache, if you could get rid of all of that, what are you left with? Sheer, undiluted happiness. That's what you would have. The Chinese put it beautifully. When the eye is unobstructed, they say, the result is sight. Don't do anything to get sight. When the eye is unobstructed, the result is sight. When the ear is unobstructed, the result is hearing. When the mouth is unobstructed, the result is taste. When the mind is unobstructed, the result is truth. And when the heart is unobstructed, the result is joy and love. You've got it all, but it's obstructed. You can drop it. So, the second major step, recognize that you don't want to get out of it. You want comfort. You want your little possessions. You want the little things that society has falsely taught you are essential for happiness. You want that. You don't want to get out of the mess. Those are the things that are creating the mess. I'm going to give you something to think about. Has it ever occurred to you that what you call your happiness is really your chain? For example, are you calling somebody your happiness? As in, you are my joy. It could be your marriage, your business, your degree, your job, whatever. In whom do you find your happiness? Whatever the answer is, that is your prison. Oh, that is harsh language. But reflect on these words. And here's the third thing. Your life is in a mess because you have wrong ideas. It's not because there's anything wrong with you. You're okay. I'm okay. You're okay. We're all okay. We're great. There's nothing wrong with us. But they put the wrong ideas in our heads. Somebody did. We needn't spend too much time trying to catch the culprit. But anyway, we have the wrong ideas. You know, if somebody has given you a stereo set, then you received a manual of instructions along with it. Well, they didn't give us a manual when they gave us the gift of life. Or, let's put it another way. They gave us the manual of instructions, but it was all wrong. So, you're not getting music. You're getting scratchy sounds. You're getting upset. You're getting conflict. You're getting loneliness. You're getting emptiness. Oh, it's right there in the Bible, the Quran, the Hindu texts, the Buddha. But very few people read it. They think they do, but they miss the point. I missed the point. Maybe I'm an unusually big idiot. But I discovered lots of company. They missed the point too. They didn't get it. All right, so what is the point? Now, there are many ways of putting forth the formula. I'm going to give you the simplest I've found. I'm going to give it to you in the words of old Buddha. Why did I choose him? Because His words are the simplest of all. But you find the formula everywhere. It's proclaimed with clarity. You're probably going to disagree with it, but you can't miss the point. You ready? Here it is. The world is full of sorrow. The root of sorrow is desire. The uprooting of sorrow is desirelessness. Oh, I'm imagining your faces. It's wonderful. You're thinking, that's great, but then you're thinking, wrong, that's awful. Isn't it wonderful? Because I know how I used to react to this. The world is full of sorrow. Great. Right. Agreed. The root of sorrow is desire. Well, all right. Now, what are you going to conclude? The uprooting of sorrow is desirelessness. So what? I'm going to be a vegetable? I mean, how do we live without desires? Let me give you a better translation. I don't think the Buddha would have been so foolish and stupid as to say that we ought not have any desires. For heaven's sake, I wouldn't be speaking if I didn't have the desire to speak. You wouldn't be here if you didn't have the desire to come and hear me. So, let's give it a better translation. The world is full of sorrow. The root of sorrow is attachment. The uprooting of sorrow means the uprooting, the dropping of attachments. You know, there are desires on whose fulfillment my happiness does not depend. In fact, you've got lots of desires on whose fulfillment your happiness does not depend. Or else, you'd be climbing walls. You'd be nervous wrecks. We, all of us, have two types of desires. We've got some desires. We desire all kinds of things, and gee, we're happy to get them. But when we don't get them, it's okay. Too bad. We're not unhappy. But we've got other desires. Good Lord, if we don't get them, we're going to be miserable. That's what I mean by attachment. Where do you think all conflicts come from? Attachment. Where do you think greed comes from? Attachments. Where do you think loneliness comes from? Attachments. And where do you think emptiness comes from? You got it. Same cause. Where do you think fear comes from? Attachments. No attachments. No fear. Ever thought of that? No attachments. No fear. Attachment is the enemy of love. You see, you're really confronting a choice between life and death. And what people call life is frequently death, though they don't know it. And you mean to tell me that if you've got attachments, you think you can love? The biggest enemy of love is attachment. Desire, in the sense of attachment. You know why? Because if I desire you, I want to possess you. I can't leave you free. I've got to get you. I've got to manipulate you so that I can get you. If I desire you in this way, I'm going to manipulate myself so I can hoodwink you into allowing me to get you. Are you following what I'm saying? There is no fear in perfect love. You know why? Because there is no desire. Now, ask your culture. I've asked mine. Ask your culture if they can make any sense out of this. Where there is love, there is no desire. That's desire in the sense of attachment. You know what they will tell you? But attachment is love. That's how stupid we are, expecting to find life here. You can find only death and misery in attachment. Such a simple, such a sublime, such an extraordinary thing. I run into people of all kinds, religious and non-religious people who are atheists or whatever, and Catholics or lay people, priests and sisters and bishops, and I rarely run into someone who knows what love is. They all got the wrong instructions. Attachment means, I gotta get you. It means, without you, I will not be happy. If I don't get you, I won't be happy. I cannot be happy without you. There, you've got the formula for divorce. There, you've got the formula for quarrels. There, you've got the formula for friendships falling apart. I cannot be happy without you. I need you for my happiness. By damn, I'll do everything to manipulate you, to get you. Love means, on the other hand, love means I'm perfectly happy without you. It's all right. It means, and I wish you good, and I leave you free, and when I get you, I'm delighted. And when I don't, I'm not miserable. Well, what do you know? I have learned to be self-sufficient. I'm standing up on my own 2 feet, not leaning on you. And, if I get money, that's wonderful. But if I don't get money, I'm not depressed. I'm still happy. You know something else? When you go away, I don't. And maybe it's too soon to say this here, but I'll risk it. When you go away, I don't miss you. I don't feel pain. Where there is sorrow, there is no love. Tell me, when you grieve, whom are you grieving for? Whose loss? Grieving is self-pity. Oh, don't call it that. You're telling the truth now. Here's a secret formula for you. If you were not actively engaged in making yourself miserable, you would be happy. You see, we were born happy. All of life is shot through with happiness. Oh, there's pain, of course. There's pain. Who told you that you can't be happy with pain? Come and meet a friend of mine who's dying of cancer. She's happy and in pain. So, we were born happy. We lost it. We were born with the gift of life, and we lost it. We've got to rediscover it. Why did we lose it? Because we were working actively. They taught us to work actively, to make ourselves miserable. How did they do that? By teaching us to become attached. By teaching us to have desires so intense that we would refuse to be happy unless they were fulfilled. The tragedy is that all you need to do is sit down for 2 minutes and just watch how untrue that assumption is. That you would be unhappy without A or B or X or Y or whatever. You know something? You won't sit. Because if you sit, you might see it. You won't sit and look at it. I know I wouldn't. I resisted it for years. You mean, if I don't get Mary or I don't get John, I won't be happy. Hey, wait a minute. Come to think of it, you're right. Before I met her or before I met him, I was happy. You know something? I once fell in love with somebody and then, well, I lost her. I was heartbroken. And what happened? I'm all right now. So she wasn't my happiness. Remember the time that you were a child and you lost something and you thought, I'll never be happy without this. What happened? If we gave it to you today, you wouldn't even look at it. Thank you.
Family and friends, enemies and allies. The Minimalist.
Every little thing that's just feeding your greed.
Cheers.
What's up, y'all? Thanks for being here. This is awesome. Yeah.
How about Kelly's little sound bath to start us off?
Give it up for Kelly. Yeah.
Oh, that was stunning. We were backstage and TK, you were like, any future event, she has to be here.
Yeah, I was like, no more future events if she's not.
Let's talk a bit about that reading. I wanted to start off with that because I wasn't really reading it to you. It's like me reading it to myself as a reminder, and you just happen to be here to witness it. But I think this is the thing that we all struggle with. People come to us because of consumerism, but that's a type of attachment. We're seeking to fill the void, the emptiness, and we don't realize that what we're actually doing is widening the void, making things worse, creating new attachments in our lives. So initial impressions on what I just read there. By the way, that was from Anthony DeMello.
Yeah, I mean, when you were reading, I was thinking about how I agree. Like, the more we attach ourselves to things, the more we open ourselves up to being disappointed, hurt, angry, sad, all the negative emotions. I started to think how attachments is really, it's kind of a synonym with expectation, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I loved the distinction he made. Like, we have these two types of desires, and maybe if I were to break it down a little bit, I would say the attachment has to do with the expectation. I want a particular outcome, and if I don't get that outcome, I don't get that person, that paycheck, that job, that accomplishment, that trophy, that car, that dress, whatever it might be, then I'm miserable. I will be unhappy, right? That's an expectation, right? But then there's this other type of desire, which is just like, this is compelling, or I'm attracted to this. It could be writing for someone, but whenever I write, it has very little to do with the outcome. In fact, whenever my writing becomes outcome-based, like a publisher is like, you must turn in this book it makes the writing miserable because all of a sudden you're now attaching an expectation to it. But there's this other side where it's like, oh, I'm just really attracted to this. Like these events, we've been super attracted to doing these events, and that's why we do it.
Yeah, I think it maps on very well to the distinction between consumption and creativity, because consumption is always about going after something that is outside of myself and depending upon it for my survival, whereas creativity is about bringing forth something that is within. And that's a very different kind of joy. I need that or I will die, versus there's something I must express because this is what makes me come alive. And consumption is valid for some things, right? I do need water, I do need food, or I will die. But the advertising industry convinces us that that is also true of a host of other things. I need that product or I will socially die. I need that car or I will professionally die. And they orient us towards consumption, feeling like I need something outside of myself to be a player in the game of life. And the joy of being human is to tap into that creativity, because that's what makes us human, right? It's what is within me that I need to bring forth as a way of saying, hey, I'm here. This is an artifact or an experience that represents my joy.
Yeah, it's like all the little bits of input we get with advertisements, the 5 to 10,000 ads that we see a day. It's like it muddles that genuine desire for what you want to put out there. I'm like so fascinated with the AI stuff. It's like I love talking about it and thinking about it. I think like we're in a really cool time right now, and it'll either like save everyone's lives or it will kill us all. I'm voting for the former. But I was reading an article the other day about how the AI is going to get so good. It's already there. They have apps that do this, but just with the camera, they can like look at your pupils. They can look at how wide your eyes are. Like they can get so much data just from some like biometric stuff that they get from the camera, and they will start to manipulate you, and you won't even realize it.
Wait, what do you mean?
Like it's reacting to your bios. So like it will start to feed you things based upon the mood that you're in, essentially.
They're gonna take over the world.
Well, go ahead.
What you're saying there is exactly what I was reading here, but it's amplified tremendously, right?
And that's why it's important we understand this, because when we feel these broken expectations, when we feel incomplete because we don't have something, like we have to understand like that tug of that the ad agencies have on us. Like we really have to be clear that our desires are our desires, not something that has been fed to us.
Right.
And it's hard to differentiate that, and it's only going to get harder.
I had a weird realization. I was walking over here. I stayed at a hotel last night, and I was just walking over here. It's a very long walk. And as I was walking, the thought that popped into my head, and I was hoping we'd have an opportunity to talk about it, but it echoes exactly what you're saying here, is, and this is hard to say, but I think it's true. You will never get what you want. And let me expand on that a little bit, because we often think we want something, but it's not what we want. It's what someone else wants for us. Now, advertisers it's easy to make them the boogeyman, which we often do. We think advertisements suck. We don't like advertisements. And yet, so the desires that we have become these mimetic desires. I saw it in a magazine, or I saw an influencer wearing it, or I saw it on YouTube, or I just saw someone walking down the street and they looked good in that shirt or with that purse or whatever it was, and now I want it. The thing that I didn't even realize was available to me, I feel like I couldn't live without it now. I want it so much. Okay, that's one kind of want. And we all know intellectually, like getting that isn't going to complete me or whatever. But there are some deeper things that you truly want. And you'll get them sometimes. But when I say you won't get what you want, because the thing you want is never actually the thing you want. The thing you want is the feeling that is behind the thing, right? The promotion, the consumer purchase, the relationship. You want the feeling behind that. Even some virtuous pursuits. I really want to contribute to my community. I want to build wells in Africa. I want to build orphanages, right? Great. But the thing you want is actually behind the thing that you want. And the problem with getting what you want is we try to hold on to that thing. And if you hold on to the thing that you wanted, you got it. But as you hold on to it, you cling to it, what happens? You cease to want it. In fact, it becomes a burden. I had the weirdest dream last night. I was walking around with this giant, it wasn't like a boulder, but it was a very big rock, about the size of one of these balloons up here. It was just a heavy rock. And in the dream, Ryan was there.
Was my shirt on?
That was a different dream. A fantasy, one might say.
You have to be asleep for a dream.
We are bifurcating.
I was carrying this giant rock around. And Ryan just shows up on the street and I'm carrying it. And he's like, hey man, that looks heavy. This is just last night. I said, yeah, it is. He goes, why'd you pick it up? I said, I needed to pick it up. He goes, okay. He goes, you can set it down. And it was just this revelation, like, I can set this down. But isn't that true with the expectations you were talking about?
Yeah. Well, because the whole time you're reading that, I was thinking about all the expectations I've had in my life and the different attachments and the desires and things that I've chased. And so many of them, like I didn't even realize I picked them up. And it's easy to say and easy to understand if you want to be truly happy, which happiness is we could talk about that for an hour, but for the sake of the context here, like to be happy, you have to let go of all your desires, let go of all your attachments. Easy to say, easy to understand, but shit, man, we pick them up so many times without even realizing that we're doing it. And it's not until we start to feel that discontent, that whatever negative emotion it's creating, that then we have the opportunity to kind of let it go rather than try to. I think it's harder to try and not pick up any because they just happen naturally.
And that was the thing in the dream. Yes, I knew I was carrying it, but didn't really realize that I had picked it up. It was just a part of my everyday walking at that point. And yes, I knew I had it, but I didn't know what it was doing to me. But as soon as you see that attachment, that expectation for what it is, that's the only time you can actually let it go. I remember our last Sunday symposium, there was a woman in the back, she asked a question about how do I let go of something? I don't remember what it was. And my answer was, hey, the microphone you're holding, if that was a snake, would you be asking me how to let it go? And she said, well, no. I said, well, what would you do? Because she wouldn't come to anyone and say, I need help letting this go. I need a 3-step plan, a method, a technology, whatever. No, because as soon as you see the problem, that's when you have the ability to actually drop it. And that's why I wanted to read that intro today.
Robert Fritz, in a very excellent book called The Path of Least Resistance, he talks about this idea of how we typically rely on a process to give us the faith to move our lives towards a result. And so we say, unless I have a way to lose weight, I'm not going to lose weight. And so we wait on someone to provide us with a process, and then we make the decision to lose weight. And he says, it is the decision about the what that gives rise to the how. It's not until you decide, I'm going to be healthy, I'm going to quit smoking, I'm going to increase my income, whatever it may be, that you actually get a process that can take you there. But if you seek permission from processes, what will happen is you'll always find something missing in the process because there is no process that's created for you, right? Processes have to be created by you as a result of committing to some end result. But I wanted to get back to that desire thing because my wife, Shelly, and I, we like to watch a lot of true crime. And we were watching this, we like to get into arguments over like what's gonna happen and like who did it and stuff like that. And in another life, we would be private detectives or lawyers or something like that. Maybe in this life, who knows?
I always try and convince my wife, Bex, to go out on stakeouts with me. I just want to sit in the car and like spy on people. I don't know what that says about me. I don't want a particular outcome. I just want to watch you.
That might be a true crime documentary unto itself. So there's this one about this con artist, and I think it's something like Chasing the Ghost. And he manages to convince so many people that he's like this spy and so on. And so there's this one family where the mother has two kids, and they're both kind of like teenagers, and he moves in. He gets really close to the mother. The father's already separated, but everyone's on amicable terms. And what he needs to do is alienate the children from their father in order to further his efforts at manipulation. And so every single day he tells the daughter, he says, "You don't like your father, do you?" And, she's just like, "Yeah, I like my dad." But every day he says it to her. "You don't really like your father, do you?" "Yeah, you don't really like him." And she's the one telling the story. And she says every single day, multiple times a day, she's got this man saying, "You don't like your father, do you?" "Yeah, I can tell you don't like your father." And at some point it just clicked. And she internalized that and was just like, "Yeah, I don't really like my dad." And the dad was out of the picture, and he was able to entrench himself further into the family and eventually separate the mother from the children and then just take his manipulation even further. But it just sort of illustrates in this really powerful and tragic way how easily we can internalize someone else's value system, someone else's likes and dislikes. And we see it playing out every day when we go to social media and we say, "Hey, who should I be angry at? Who should I be offended by? Who should I hate today? Who should I be afraid of today?" And social media is like really good at studying what you click on and what makes you feel emotion, which is why whenever you say things like, "Hey, everybody, no one pay attention to this. This made me so mad today," the machine says, "Thank you for your business," because it doesn't care if you give it attention based on hate or based on love. It's like if I'm going through the grocery store and I, see something, I go, "Ugh, that's gross," and I put it in my cart and pay for it. The company's like, "Thank you for your business." Yeah. They don't care if I bought it out of hate. And that's what we do, right? We just put everything into our cart. But social media is really good at like catering to our taste. And it'll say, "Okay, I see what you're clicking on. Hey, check this out. Here's a video of 5 black people jumping this white kid and calling him racial slurs. You over there, here's a video of 5 white people jumping this black kid and calling them racial slurs. I'm going to separate you all and put you in this world. And I'm going to put you in this virtual world because I need you to be scared of them. And I need you to be scared of them. I need you to think this person's great. I need you to think this person's evil." And every day we get fed these stories because we're not creating our own news. We're not informing ourselves based on our own priorities and our own principles, but we're getting our instructions from this world that is incentivized to get us to behave in any way that feeds the machine. And so we have all of these desires and all of these values that don't even belong to us. And how long until we wake up and say, "Wait a minute, none of these dreams are even mine. None of these fears are even mine. None of these questions that are holding me back are even mine. I don't need those answers. Those are somebody else's questions. I can be free to live my life with what I know and what I don't know."
I totally agree with everything you just said. I think in some ways it's even more pernicious than that, because I think that if you are consuming content on social media, to use some really vapid phrases,
like whatever happened to reading or listening? It's consuming content. Like even our approach to engaging the world is very machine-like. Anyway, go ahead.
A friend of mine pointed out something at our studio. There's our neighbor is a general contractor, the construction company there, and he has a sign up for UPS, and on there it says "Content has no value," and that's quite the profound message. But I think it just meant that you can leave these boxes here at my doorstep. They're not worth anything. Anyway, with social media, and I was like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, content does have no value. That's why I never post anything. But I think it's even worse than, hey, if you like it and you click on it, that's one thing. But if you hate it, it's the same thing. I would say, well, no, because if you truly are at peace, you're probably going to turn off the app or turn off the phone or set it down. But if you're yearning for more, the disease of more, I need more dopamine, I need more attention, I need more clicks, whatever it might be, you get that through discontent. And so, in a way, social media incentivizes discontent. It incentivizes our unhappiness. And it incentivizes us seeking out those things because we confuse the dopamine rush with happiness. And then it becomes this digital prison that we have in our pockets and we carry around with us every day.
Well, that makes me think about the reading that you did and how so like Twitter and Facebook, all the other social media companies, they don't meet in a boardroom and they're like, okay, we're going to feed everyone angry, sad things today.
Right.
It is a algorithm that just pairs with us and what we view and what we continue to come back to. And so it makes me think about the reading, because if all we're getting in our social media feeds are the things that we're talking about right now, that's because we want it. Yeah. It's because we are feeding it that information. So of course it's going to give us that stuff. And if I was to ask, someone who super politically charged, angry, if I asked them, like, do you want to be angry all the time? They would probably say, no, I don't. But it's just unfortunate how the world is, it just makes me angry.
I have to, they make me angry.
Right. Yeah.
Which is like the biggest lie, right? Because no one here has the power to make me angry. Only I can anger myself, right? In reaction to this perceived injustice that I see from you. It's really fascinating. Most of my favorite guests on the Minimalist podcast are the ones who are the most controversial. And oftentimes, I don't even realize they're controversial until Jessica starts sending me all the comments on the particular episode. And I'm like, oh, wow, that medical doctor was really... I didn't have any idea. Or that psychiatrist was really controversial. I didn't know people didn't like her. And people get really, really upset and outraged. And the reason they do is they think that I and Ryan and TK upset them. It is our fault that they are upset.
How dare us?
Like I came to their house with a bucket of discontent and said, here you go, hold on to this. But it's kind of like that rock that I was carrying in the dream, right? Because the truth is that if I carry that rock over and hand it to TK, I can hand it to him. He can choose to take it from me. But from what he does with it from there is totally up to him. He can set it down. He can run around with it. He can complain to me that I handed him this damn rock, and why would you do this to me? If we were friends, you wouldn't hand me a boulder. You wouldn't do this to me. Like, oh man, I thought you wanted it. Why don't you just set it down?
But we choose to be silent about our pain. Who was it? Zora Neale Hurston said, if you are silent about your pain, people will kill you and say you enjoyed it. That's what happens when you give other people power over your narrative. I have a question for you guys, though, based on what you just said. If we don't want this, why do we choose it? So, like, if social media is showing me things that are a reflection of what I'm choosing, but you ask me in theory, do I want to be angry today? My answer is no. Why am I choosing that? Why do we choose things we don't want?
I think that's the $1 million question, man. I think that's why Josh read that reading, is because it is hard to understand. I mean, of course, no one wants to be angry, but that algorithm is reflecting what you want. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
I think the first line that I started with was, you don't want to get out of this mess. And I think that's why. Ultimately, because getting out of the mess means letting go of all of these attachments, these expectations, these false desires, these beliefs, these opinions that make us who we are. One of my favorite quotes is from Ram Dass, and this woman was asking him a question in a setting not dissimilar from this. And she said, I'm just trying to find what aligns with my personality. I'm trying to find the activities that align with my identity. And he said, oh, that's cute. You think you have an identity. And yes, we have identities, but we've created them. They're self-contained, and we adorn ourselves with business titles. Here's what it says on my business card. Here's who I am. What do you do is the first question we ask someone when we meet them. And they give you a business title, or they tell you what they enjoy, or I'm a mother, I'm a father. You go to someone's bio on Twitter, and it says, husband, father, Christian, author, whatever. And all of a sudden, it's like, well, Is that all you are? No, obviously not, right? And there's nothing wrong with those things and understanding something about a person, but they're approximations of who we are. They're not who we actually are.
Ken Wilber does a lot of work on this. He calls it no boundary awareness, where he talks about basically whenever we say this is who I am or this is what I am, we're essentially drawing a boundary around us that says I am not that, right? So a self-definition is a way of saying what you are not. When I say I am TK, I am a Black American male, or I am a Christian, or I am from Chicago, I'm telling you what I'm not. I am not Josh. I am not that desk. I am not an inanimate object, right? I am not a child. And the funny thing about these boundary lines is that over time, we find that they're far more negotiable than we typically expect. We say things like, I'm just not a people person. I'm just not a normal person. Freudian slip.
Amen.
I'm just not a morning person, right? But then maybe you get this job that requires you to get up at 5 a.m, or maybe you marry someone or you have children and it requires you to make adjustments and you realize, oh, this quality I accepted to be as part of my self-definition, it's actually quite negotiable, and I'm glad to let it go. And over time, you find that that boundary line gets bigger and bigger, and the question that Ken Wilber is always challenging us to ask ourselves is, where does that boundary line really end? And why should we assume that it has an end? And maybe it does, but the end might not be the same as where it happens to fall right now, because life is always challenging us to do that. One other thing I wanted to say about the desire question is there's an important economics concept that I think can help with these sorts of things, and it's basically what's called stated versus revealed preference. And stated preference is what a person says they want. So you find out people's stated preferences when you conduct surveys. Like, hey, if this guy ran for office, would you vote for him? Yeah. If Ryan became a rock star and had a concert tomorrow night, would you go? Yeah.
If.
Right, so stated preference is what I genuinely feel I would do. Revealed preference is what I actually choose when scarcity or sacrifice is involved. So stated preference is basically if I had the power to wave a magic wand and give you whatever you wanted without any cost or responsibilities or sacrifices on your end, would you say yes to it? That's basically what stated preference is. And it doesn't mean that we're lying. It just means people make different choices when there's no sacrifice or responsibility involved. And the choices we make in life are not a reflection of what we want in theory, but they're a reflection of what we're willing to sacrifice or prioritize. So right now, in this moment, my stated preference is, I want ice cream right now. And I'm not lying. In this moment, I want ice cream. And that's real. But in order to make that happen, I have to do something. And I have to take a risk of some kind. I gotta go, hey, guys, I'm really loving this show right now. But can you give me like a 15-minute break and I'll be back? I gotta go get some ice cream. And it's like, when I compare my desire for ice cream with what's entangled in that, I'm gonna say no to it today at this time, right? And so our life is a reflection of our priorities, not our preferences. It's not our wishes. It's not the things that we say we want, but it's what we're willing to choose when we have to let something else go.
Wow.
Hey, I'll take it.
Now, going back to
At least he didn't say, please clap.
Right. Please clap.
Not to get political up here.
Going back to the question you asked about why do we hold on to these things that we don't want? It has something to do with the cost of letting it go and living in a different world.
Yes.
Because I think back to like when I was raised Jehovah's Witness, I loved knowing how the world worked. How do we get here? Let me tell you. Why are we here right now? Oh, I got answers for that. You want to know where we're going?
You each get your own planet, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. No, that's the other religion.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But the thing, like when I was disconnecting from that though, it was very difficult. Because when you have an understanding of how the world works, and we all want that, and when you're so sure about it, and then it starts to crumble a little bit. It's like I had a choice. It was like, do I go go more all in with it, or do I like start to let it unravel a little bit? And to go more all in was very tempting.
It's like picking up more of those rocks.
Yeah. So, religion or not, political, whatever situation people are choosing to make themselves miserable in, it has to do with, I think, that's their worldview, and to look at it any other way is risking it's risking them being right. Like they don't want to be. No one wants to be wrong about how they look at the worldview. So if they start to look at it in a different way, they are giving up that certainty. And if they've been wrong the whole time, because I went through it. I mean, at 25 years old, I'm like, fuck, like I've been like just bullshitting me and everyone else for the last 25 years. It's hard to admit that. Yeah.
This is why we have to be so careful with trying to change other people, even if we are convinced that the advice we have for them is better than the ideas they're currently acting on. I'm not saying you can never exercise influence, but you got to be very careful, because people's ideas are not just these theoretical beliefs they have. They're not just answers that they would give on a philosophy test or a theology exam. People's worldview holds their whole self together. They build their family life around these worldviews, their daily routines around these worldviews. And if you take something away from someone, what are you going to replace that with? And people have to grow and evolve in their own time and at their own pace, not because your ideas you want to influence them with don't matter, but because everyone needs to go at a different pace with integrating new insights into their worldview. Because if you ask someone to change too quickly, you might destroy them. There is no such thing as a piece of advice that is so good that it can't be abused or misapplied in a way that actually makes your life worse. And that's why we have to be careful. Related, I saw a friend on Facebook post the following. I'm going to paraphrase it because I can't quote it, but he says something to the effect of, I got together with a friend of mine the other day, and this friend is someone who claims to be religious, but sometimes I see him living in ways that are not consistent with his religion. And there are other days I see him living in a very noble and devout way. And I had a moment where I wanted to call him out on it, but I also knew that if he discovers the truth for himself and sees it for himself, he'll be more likely to make the improvements. So instead, I looked at him, I told him that I loved him, and I asked him if I could pray with him. And after that, I winked at him and decided to walk away from the mirror.
Well, thank you all for coming today. Let's open it up for some questions. I see Alabama roaming somewhere. Where is she?
She's sneaking in the back. Hi, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, Alabama. Yeah. So we're really here for you. So whatever questions you might have, if you want to talk about why you're here today or what your expectations are, Mallory will take care of you.
For me, please? Hi there. My name is Barbara.
All right, y'all, that's our minimal episode for today. What a magical event. If you'd like to listen to the back half of this sold-out Sunday Symposium, our final Sunday Symposium, you can check out the maximal edition of episode 387 on the Minimalists private podcast. That private podcast episode includes the entire Q&A section, plus some additional minimalist insights, and one more special reading from that live event. Head on over to patreon.com/theminimalists or click the link in the description to subscribe and get your personal link so that our weekly maximal episodes play in your favorite podcast app. You'll also gain access to all of our podcast archives all the way back to episode 001. And if you leave here today with just one message, please let it be this: love people and use things, because the opposite never works. Thanks for listening, y'all.
Every little thing you think that you need, every little thing you think that you need, Every little thing that's just feeding your greed. Oh, I bet that you'd be fine without it.